A very pleasant good evening to everyone joining us online, and a very warm welcome to this forum that we're hosting entitled The Voice of Ukrainian Educational Research. The association we're looking at across the borders is there educational solidarity during the Russian-Ukrainian war. My name is Dr. Melissa Jogi. I'm a representative of BIRA. I'm one of the conveners of the Special Interest Group of Comparative and International Education. I'm joined here this evening with my co-convener, Helen Hanna. Helen, would you like to say hello? I've put her on the spot here, so while she maybe sorts out what's going on. At BIRA, we do have several different special interest groups. Here we go. Hi, Helen.
Hi, sorry, I'm not very familiar with Teams, so it took me a while to find the right buttons to press. But hi, Melissa, thanks for that intro. I'm really glad to be here and really looking forward to hearing from our speakers from Ukraine.
Thanks, Helen. This event was actually initially put together by Olga Munn, who is one of our conveners who may be joining us later on, but she has since left the position. So she's facilitated this wonderful introduction to Oksana, who is also presenting here today. And I'll get into the introductions a bit more, but we are very, very grateful for this collaboration between the Ukrainian Educational Research Association and that of the British Educational Research Association, BERA and UERA. So we are hoping to have some invigorating presentations, and we want you to take some notes down for questions asked. We have some facilities to do some breakout rooms so that we can speak to each other and share some ideas and get some collaboration or some ideas and networking going on between researchers from Ukraine and those within the UK. We do have a few little housekeeping things. The session is being recorded, so if you would not like to be recorded on screen, you are invited to switch off your camera. Please do keep your microphone on mute so we don't get too much feedback. And of course, use the chat feature if you'd like to put any questions, or you are always welcome to use the reactions to raise your hand, and we will be able to get to you when we get to the Q&A session. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first panel of speakers, who is Oksana. So we have Oksana Zobolotna, and you'll have to correct me for my horrible pronunciation. But Oksana is very privileged. She is the president of the Ukrainian Educational Research Association and editor-in-chief of the Studies in Comparative Educational Journal. And we are welcoming her with her teacher experience as a teacher facilitator, educational consultant, and a researcher, currently based at the Pavlo, I'm going to say that wrong, so you are going to have to tell me what it is, State Pedagogical University. So without further ado, I will ask Oksana to speak, and then I will introduce us to our second panel member. Over to you.
Most of the people know me because all of them are members of Ukrainian Educational Research Association, and we're really happy that at last this event has started. And when I got a letter from BIRA, and it was in spring, wasn't it? So that BIRA suggested that we should do something together, some event, I said definitely yes. And I said yes because it is always a chance to get to people across the borders, even if there are no many people on the British side today. So anyway, it is a very important thing to speak, and to speak about the issues, about the problems that seem local at first sight, but in fact they are global, and we should have a closer look at it. So today I will speak about some things that are connected with the brief history of the Ukrainian Educational Research Association, when we started and what we do and what we are doing now, and about the era after the 24th of February, the day that changed everything, and about the recent just event that connects the era and global education and educational research during the war, if any, and if there is any possibility to do it. So the ERA, Ukrainian Educational Research Association, was founded 7 years ago, and a person who did a lot for that was Professor Svetlana Shudlo, the first ERA president, who unfortunately passed away, and she isn't with us today. But she contributed to the preparation of this presentation, and it's very important for me that I should mention her today and mention her name today. So the main mission of our association is supporting educational research, and what is also very important, and supporting educational researchers. So our mission deals with teaching, with research, and with serving community. And this third part of our mission is becoming more and more important today. And how do we do all the things? Actually, we conduct conferences, seasonal schools, winter and summer schools, and among the people present here are the participants of those schools. And we just, I see some people here who have been with the Ukrainian Educational Research Association from the very start. We have been enrolled in different educational and research projects. And in fact, your members are from different regions of Ukraine, and thanks to this fact, we can reach our respondents in the most remote corners of our country. Actually, that is used to be this way, but the 21st of February changed everything, and it even changed our mission, because it got people to live in danger, to leave their homes, to fight, to panic, to pray. So it put everything upside down, and certainly the mission changed, and this serving society, serving Ukraine became number one. And the most important thing for us today is telling the truth to the world. Because we asked ourselves, what can we do? What is our front? So the most important thing is telling the truth to the world, telling the truth that that the world shouldn't be deceived by propaganda and false hopes for the war to end very soon. Unfortunately, it won't. And people in education, either in academia or at school, deal with young generation. And to some extent, they define the future of the world, where unfortunately more and more autocratic regimes are coming to power, and we really see it. Another important thing was supporting the ERA members, wherever they might be, either in the occupied territories, occupied regions, or in the regions under missile strikes, or abroad, or in relatively small regions of Ukraine, though we can say that there are no safe places in Ukraine now. So anyway, we're trying to support them with money, with shelter, and with information, which is also very, very important. And certainly, we never stop teaching, and we never stop researching. In reaching out the world, we appealed to European Educational Research Association as the same with VERA. So Ukrainian Educational Research Association is ERA member. So we just joined the council meeting in Berlin on the 25th of March, a month after the war started, with the request to ban Russian and Belarusian associations. But my co-presenter Irina Kushnir will speak a little bit more about that. So also we spoke to Hong Kong academic community to show examples of how different are education for peace and education for war and education against war, and how these things influence the future of the world. In Finland, we spoke about the Ukrainian educational research attitude towards academic cooperation with Russians. We shared the survey results where our members said no to cooperation with Russian academic institutions. And they put forward a lot of different conditions for cooperation with individuals from Russia. And those conditions were really, really serious. And they stated that the people all over the world should be able to take responsibility if they involve Russian researchers, Russian academics to different projects, to different kinds of research, because sometimes it can be even dangerous. So we understand that it's not about this collective guilt and collective responsibility, though people who stayed mute are also to be blamed from what is happening now. Well, and the recent example of sharing is the participation of our representatives in in the European Congress on Global Education to 2050, where a very important document, Declaration on Global Education in Europe to 2050, was adopted. So. This document was to replace the Maastricht Declaration that was adopted 20 years ago. And as the situation in the whole world has changed dramatically, so those key documents should also be changed. And we were really happy to be present in that great event. And the question is, what does the ERA have to do with global education? What connects ERA and global education? So everything is encoded even in the name of the association. In each word, there is a special meaning which connects the ERA with global education. Let us start with the first word, Ukrainian. All our members are Ukrainian, and today our nation is standing at the forefront of the war, of the battle between democracy and autocracy. And it is a great privilege to belong to the nation who just to some extent defines the future of the education and the future of the world. Have you ever seen democratic education in an authoritarian country? Is it possible? No, it is not. And actually here we mean that, and we speak about the life of the globe and the character of the global education, which is about democracy, which is education for sustainability, which is education for peace and justice. And let us refer to those goals for sustainable development. There are 17 of them. And peace, justice, and strong institutions comes under number 16. Now we see with all those strikes, shelling, bombing, blackmailing over nuclear power, over energy, and over food, we see that and we realize that if this peace, justice, and strong institutions does not become number one, all other goals may be in danger. Let us have a look at them. No poverty? There will be poverty if war goes on. Zero hunger? No, that's not true. And it's not about health and well-being. And it is not about quality education. It is not about gender equality, not about clean water and sanitation if war goes on. So all other goals of sustainable development are under threat. That's why it is so important that we should join our efforts in education, that it should do everything for peace and well-being and for justice and strong institutions that did not appear strong enough to stop it and to influence it. Even UNESCO or Red Cross could not do a thing to stop what is going on now. And, now we see what Russians do with education in their country and on the occupied territories and on the territory of Ukraine. We realize that education can be anti-global if it incites hatred, if it incites filthy propaganda and distorted history. And now when we say open university or open school or university without walls or school without walls, we do not think about being open to new ideas or to offering different online courses. We really think about the university with no walls because it has been ruined. And what do we do as a research association, educational research association, to prevent Ukrainians and other people from falling in the abyss of ignorance and the parallel reality world without rules, without mercy, without thinking about the future of the globe? We work a lot. We work with teachers, and we offer them professional development programs developing critical thinking, information literacy and resilience that are in high demand now. Also, we have become a community of about 400 educational researchers from all Ukrainian regions, and these people cooperate, support each other, and carry out research projects that meet current needs of the wounded Ukrainian education. I say wounded, as hundreds of schools and universities have been ruined. I say wounded because most of their school time, school children spend in shelters. I say wounded because with constant blackouts, students cannot go online. But I say wounded, not dead. And if researchers are alive, they do their research. That's why we announced the project competition, and it was an open call, and we got funding from European Educational Research Association, and we asked our members, what would you like to do to meet the needs of our Ukrainian education? And they submitted great projects, and the procedure was transparent, and we just chose 10 projects that will be supported. And these projects were from 11 regions of Ukraine and 3 regions that have suffered badly. And the people are ready to disseminate the information, and they are ready to work. That is what we are doing now. And if you have any questions, we are open to them, and we are willing to answer your questions. Still, association is functioning, is working, and we have really great members who are eager to work in Ukraine, to work in other countries, but to work for Ukraine. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Oksana, for sharing such a wonderful opening in terms of giving us a bit more of that truth and that concept of the wounded and that role of the researcher. Very enlightening. I'd like to introduce our second speaker in this panel, Dr. Irina Kushnir, who's currently a senior lecturer at Nottingham Trent University and has quite a wide range of experience here in 5 countries across 7 different universities. I'm sure all of this is going to feed into what she may present to us today. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Irina.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Oksana, for a really kind of nice and insightful introduction into what the European Education Research Association has been doing. And also thank you for mentioning Professor Svetlana Studlo, who was at the beginning of creating the association and was meant to be here today, but very sadly passed away before this event, but she was looking forward to it. So I'm happy we mentioned her name. Yeah, well, the Ukrainian Education Research Association, it seems to be at the source of promoting social justice through education in Ukraine, particularly now during the war. And what I'm going to speak today is actually one of things that fall in the remit of what the UERA, Ukrainian Education Research Association, has been doing recently, and that has been coordinating with the rest of the European higher education area the response to the war, and the response was in suspending Russia's and Belarus memberships in the European higher education area. So just a little bit of a background. Of course, we've all heard about the response of different international education organizations to the invasion of Ukraine. On this slide, we can see just a handful of examples from the beginning of the war, from kind of the end of February into March, how the European Commission announced the ceasing of its cooperation with Russian entities in the area of education and research, how Russian and Belarus higher education institutions were removed from international university rankings, how the European Association for Quality Assurance in Higher Education issued a statement also about suspending the rights of their member and affiliate agencies in Russia. And well, we also all know that a lot of people around the world would think why education, and specifically higher education, would be involved in responding to the war if this is a non-political area. But we can all see that that response is a little bit cynical, but at the same time very simplistic and really lacks kind of the foundation, because higher education is a politicized area, and higher education is a tool for creating the next generation of citizens who would contribute to building a society in which they operate in a very particular way, either a free society or an oppressed society. So saying that higher education should or could stay aside from responding to the war, aside from the war, is unthinkable. So what about the European higher education area? Well, a little background here for us. Well, the European higher education area, it's a policy initiative to create comparable, innovative and inclusive systems of higher education by 2030 in the European region. And by European region, I mean the territory of the European higher education area, which has been growing exponentially since 1998, when the idea to create it emerged. And it was started by only 4 countries, the UK, France, Germany, and Italy, but it grew to include a lot of the EU countries and later on non-EU countries as well. and Russia and Belarus were among these countries, and there were 49 active member states in the European higher education area before the war was launched. And well, the response of the European higher education area was kind of expected, given the situation, given the response of a lot of other organizations that dealt with coordinating education projects, and also the understanding of a lot of people that education is not aside from what happens in the wider society. In fact, it is very much present and defines what happens in the wider society. So right here on this slide, I've highlighted in the green color for you the two kind of points in time when the Ukrainian Education Research Association contributed to shaping the response of the European higher education area to the war. After the letter to the Bologna follow-up group, that's the international body that governs the European higher education area. There was a letter from the Ministry of Education Science in Ukraine, and it was followed by an email request from a representative of the Ukrainian Education Research Association to the Bologna Secretariat. And while we know that on the 18th of March, there was an extraordinary BFUG Bologna follow-up group meeting where representatives from different countries that make up the European higher education area met to discuss specifically the response of the European higher education area to the war. But as you can see here on the right side of the slide, the actual response that someone could see was not right there yet. And that's why on the 28th of March, the Ukrainian Education Research Association issued a letter to the BFUG, the Bologna Follow-Up Group, with the request to kind of work on the response as well. And we can see that on the 11th and 12th of April, there was another BFUG meeting in which a statement was actually issued and made public. Just a couple of screenshots here. You can see that we do have some idea about what happened in that meeting on the 11th of March, which was this extraordinary BFUG meeting. And we can see that there was a draft of the response of the statement, but there was a need for it to be redrafted to clarify a couple of points. One of them was the exact support in policy from the members of the European higher education area, but perhaps not just that, which is something that's not really mentioned in the minutes of the meeting. Because in the research that we have been conducting with the representatives from a few key organizations in the European higher education area, specifically in some countries such as Italy, France, Germany, we can see that some countries were a little bit slow with reacting, with signing the letter, signing the resolution about that response from the European higher education area and suspending the membership of Russia and Belarus in the European higher education area. And again, with the explanation that we've given at the beginning of this presentation, as much as someone would want to place education as something separate from what is going on in the wider society, this is not possible to do because education defines the society. And that's why the Ukrainian Education Research Association did issue this extra nudge to the current, which is Albanian Secretariat of the European Higher Education Area, with a request to issue a statement and condemn the actions of the Russian government, and at the same time to act on the cooperation ties that existed with Russian Federation and Belarus, because that was unthinkable to continue cooperation the way it existed, particularly after the conference of rectors from the Russian Federation issued a statement celebrating the propaganda that is delivered by the Russian government. So finally, the statement that was issued and all the members of the European Higher Education Area signed it eventually does change a lot for Russia and Belarus. I've highlighted a couple of important points here from the statement. You can see that there was a request to suspend the rights of participation of Russia in all structures and activities of the European Higher Education Area, and the same measures would extend to Belarus. Particular emphasis was put on contacts and cooperation with central government agencies and also any other European higher education area country that would actively support the invasion of Ukraine. But at the same time, we can see that there was an acknowledgement about some cooperation with organizations and institutions in Russia that clearly oppose the war and share European ideas, and also to offer support and protection to the members of the Russian Federation higher education community that are taking a public stance against the invasion. And in these couple of slides, I just want to show you a bit of how this is presented on the website and how that did spark a bit of a controversy in the higher education community, because we can see that, yes, while there is a link to the statement on the war and condemning the actions of the Russian Federation, we can see that the number of countries has not been reduced to 47. If we read into it, we understand that these are all the members, but actually there are 47 now active members, with the 2 of the 49 members being suspended. There was also a bit of a controversy, and still exists, because things have not changed fully on the website of the European Higher Education Area. In some places we can see the reduced map, which explicitly shows which countries are active members of the European Higher Education Area. But at the same time, if we click further into the links, we see that in some other places the map has not yet been changed, and we still have the references to 49 countries and not really proper explanations to which countries were suspended, unless we go further and we see that the membership of Russian Federation was suspended, and so was the membership of Belarus. And well, I would like to finish this short presentation by providing another quotation from an interview with a representative from a German student organization who explained the meaning of the suspension. They said that it's like stopping the membership, like putting it on ice, but you're still in here. You don't have any decision-making powers, and you're not invited, but you're still in. Some students have already been expelled in Russia. There's a question, how can we help those students? So we understand that the response was needed, absolutely needed, and it did happen eventually, which was a really good sign for the development of our world society, because we do see that the education should react and should be at the forefront of promoting social justice in education and the wider society. And at the same time, the decision was made to suspend and not completely expel the 2 countries in order to have the bridge to help the people who understand what is going on, both in Russia and Belarus, and support them as well in their public stance against the violence that's taking place. And just a couple of questions that I would like to pose, and I'm sure we'll have some time to discuss these in the breakout rooms in a second. Is there a higher education frontline in this war? That resonates a lot with what Oksana mentioned in the previous presentation as well. Another question would be, has the response of the European higher education area added a new and important meaning to its inclusive European higher education area goal by advocating social justice in the world more broadly? So it's not only about higher education structures and policies, but it's actually about supporting social justice in the world. And can any form of academic cooperation override the well-organized disinformation campaign driven by Russian propaganda? And all that relates to maintaining some of the cooperation connections with the agencies in Russia and Belarus that do take a public stance against the invasion. So yeah, that's all from me. Thanks a lot. I'm going to stop sharing my screen in a second.
Thank you so much, Irina, for that presentation. I mean, it's really eye-opening when you look at the role education has to play, and coming down to the steps that were maybe less transparent in the sharing of that content, and it feels like 5 steps forward and 9 steps back in terms of the journey that we're at and where we're at the moment, and some very, very good questions. Okay, Sergey, would you like to unmute?
Yeah. And it's maybe not a question, it's a comment that unfortunately we are in very interesting situation. And we have broad field for research now in Ukraine, because we speak more about politics, but we are Ukrainian Research Association. And what this possibility provide to us as a researcher is crucial. It's important to understand how this democratic environment in Ukraine was created due to education, secondary, higher education, different other branches of education, how these activities, including activities of Ukrainian Educational Research Association, help to reload this educational environment. And here I want to draw attention to our English colleague. Unfortunately, I see mostly my Ukrainian colleague here, majority of whom I know. But that it's open field for extremely interesting researchers. For example, my idea, I want to mention this idea. I graduate in Soviet time from English language intensive learning school. And I know that it was island of democracy and excellence in my native Sumy environment. So what idea come to my mind, and probably it could be a part of further discussion with British Research Association, between British and Ukrainian, to help us maybe to conduct this research, to find possibility to do this extremely interesting experience. I'm sure that it would be, I'm affiliated researcher at Uppsala University for many years. I'm Fulbright graduate, so I understand that what we have as a researcher of education, we need to use in order to promote democracy, in order to overcome autocracy, in order to democratize our environment, not only at university level, but at the level of secondary, high school, etc. And in order to find a way for fruitful cooperation in research area, particularly in research area. And I am sure that here Ukrainian Educational Research Association could be a valuable partner. Professor Zabolotna mentioned this, that its network which cover all Ukraine, included former occupied territory. It's perhaps the most professional researcher in this educational area who currently working in Ukraine, at least majority of them. Unfortunately, after February 24, some of them are continue to work abroad, but it's I think it's totally acceptable. We work in global world. And maybe again, to speak, this is my last comment, to speak about war as a possibility. It's cruel thing, it's dangerous thing, it's harmful, but at the same time, I am researcher first of all. It's often interesting possibility, and here we have very interesting field for cooperation with our British colleague, and thank you for your support, for your attention, and the support at state level, support at non-governmental level, and I hope we, after our victory, will have not only big achievement in economic, political, social area, but achievement in the area of educational research, because again, it's unique experience. Thank you for your attention. Maybe
Thank you.
I don't know, Professor Zabolotnaya, Professor Kushnir, do you agree with my approach, with my dimension of thinking?
Yes, and I always agree with you, Sergey. And the thing about educational research in Ukraine, that it has changed its focus completely now, and that we actually do not have their starting data to compare results with. So all we have to do is to start from the very beginning. Yes, because a lot of things are now connected with all those issues connected with emotional literacy, with with resilience. We didn't used to speak about it a lot, but these are the things that we really need now. And critical thinking are also the issues now, and media literacy have started just playing different colors now. So all of them are in focus now, and really we have a lot of things to do, and we are limited in time and sometimes even in energy, I should say. But I'm sure we will also show our resilience, and because under stress, so it's not just post-traumatic stress disorder, so maybe it is even developmental thing, because this situation has shown us a lot what we can do, and we see that we do not have this kind of, how do we call it, imposter syndrome, because we have a lot to say, and that is really important for us. Thank you, Sergey, for mentioning those things.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if I may add also a comment, thanks, Sergey. Also, absolutely agree. University research, higher education research, it's at the forefront of creating knowledge, right? That's the creation of knowledge. Propaganda is also knowledge, but it's created in non-research based ways. It's created in the ways and using the tools that those who deceive, those who kill and steal and so on will want to persuade the non-knowledgeable in. And just to counter that propaganda, what people who work at universities could do is do quality research and deliver the knowledge about the truth to the rest of the population, and teach people distinguish between credible and non-credible sources of information. And yes, propaganda from the media is one source, and scientific research is another source. So yeah, absolutely, more and more research is needed, and urgently, and it needs to be disseminated and funded. So yeah, absolutely, we should all unite our efforts in collaborating and putting forward some ideas and projects and delivering on them.
If possible, one brief comments. Quality research would be our main weapons in this struggle for democratization of Ukrainian educational environment, in joining European area of higher education, global area of education, etc., etc., etc. And here, this is our important mission. I don't reject this political issue. It's crucial, especially at the beginning when we needed to awake, and you contributed a lot. I know how many you did during these months, but we need to think also about future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. We've got Helen.
Thanks, Irina, and thanks, Oksana. I think we're learning a lot today. So you mentioned obviously about having to cut the ties with Russian researchers and universities. I suppose I'm interested to know the consequences of that for you, because I imagine for many of you personally, you probably had really nice, collaborations and colleagues in Russia, and I imagine some of that is probably quite painful for you to have to cut those ties. I wonder, can you say anything about that, and perhaps talk about the collaborations that you used to be able to do with Russia that now you're no longer able to do?
If I may, or maybe someone from the people present here may give their personal stories. Yes, it is painful. So, because I have a family in Russia, and that is through a very close family, my sister, and and we used to have a lot of cooperation with the Russian individuals and institutions, but it is gone. It is gone. It is forgotten. It is unpleasant for us even to hear the Russian language. And it doesn't matter whether it is a Ukrainian speaking Russian or a Russian speaking Russian. So, too many things have been done to us, and too much damage has been just brought to our Ukraine. We understand that if we go on this cooperation, so Ukraine will have no future. They will use every word of ours, but in a distorted manner. So we don't want it, sorry. So I see Oksana would like to add something.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also glad to join this company and then say some words about my kind of a personal experience, and then the ideas I have also to comment the situation. First of all, that's talking about the Russian researcher, Russian partnership that we had before, that even that is in the past for this time being, because no university in Russia just started any campaign against the war, or even, they were under the threat, and I realized, but they did nothing. And even especially the journals we have collaborated together as well. We lost all ties, lost everything. But the idea is that touches me nowadays is that Western part of Europe sometimes doesn't realize the importance of this ban for collaboration with Russian and Belarusian researchers. It's not like a ban, but even I wonder to reduce the number of possibilities for Russian and Belarusian researchers to be a part of European subsidies and European foundations. Because 2 weeks ago, I participated in international conferences with just a very funny title, Russian collaboration with France, whether it's still on or not, something like this. And then there were some representatives of Russian researchers. One representative was the head of Russian Dome of that was Russian Association of Memory, which is the winner of a Nobel Prize for just arranging the association in foreign territory. And then they were just saying that so we are kind of not support aggression and no one say that there is a war, but simply aggression. And then, but then when I gave them a question, what did you do to stop or say that? Or what are your actions? Just saying, being in a foreign country and saying that you are against aggression, it doesn't mean anything. Just what are your steps? And the answer was, we are surviving. We are surviving like most of the researchers, Russian researchers in Europe. But at the same time, the foundation which gave this conference gave funding for Russian, Belarusian, and Ukrainian researchers, and their percentage of the grant project was 60% was given to Russian researchers. 30%, oh, just sorry, that's 60, that's for Russian and Belarusian researchers, and then only 40% for Ukrainian. That's a weird thing that I couldn't come up with, and then that's something I'm trying to say that Ukrainian, but what did Russia, why do they support Russian researchers who are in exile? That's a weird thing because they are not surviving, they are hiding from the country. That is my point of view. And then, but at the same time, 2 weeks ago, I also managed to visit the conference that is Western Europe conference, which united 6 countries. That is a consortium of 6 countries of West, as they called Eastern Europe. Yeah, it's Eastern Europe, sorry. And then that's there were representatives of Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Russia, Ukraine, and Moldova. And when we applied to Belarusian, they were just NGO representatives to ask or even to say something, just to say words of sympathy for Ukraine in order to feel sorry for the bombs that fly from their territory on the territory of Ukraine, and that we applied and we appealed to their responsibilities, that's collective responsibility. And then, but they say, no, we are not, or it's not our business. We are not connected to the situation that is going on. And no one say that they feel sorry, they feel pity, that because they are also under the pressure of the autocratic government in their country. And that's my voice is to reduce to minimum the number of collaboration with Russian and Belarusian researchers as well. That is even the comment, that's what is going on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Irina, did you want to make a comment on that? Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, thank you, Oksana. I wanted to kind of add really to that it's really about the message that it gives to everyone, and it's also about preventing disincentivizing of people, because lives are going on. The initial shock of the war that the rest of the world experienced has passed, and people have proceeded with their lives, proceeded with, you know, with their work, hobbies, and fun time and everything. And Ukraine is left dealing with the missiles, airstrike warnings, and lost friends and relatives' lives. So by kind of choosing the route, while all of these things, education or anything else, cooperation in any other area, if that's all fine, because it's not shooting missiles, then what kind of message are we giving to everyone there? Let's all be friends, and then let Ukraine get the strikes in, and well, that's kind of separate from everything. It's not separate, because politics is everywhere, and as I said at the beginning, education is at the heart of creating the society. So if we are educationalists, if we are talking about anything in education, is it research cooperation, is it a conference, is it anything else, being kind of human beings, and things like expressing the words of being sorry and so on would be kind of a very natural, I guess, response that you know, we do hear from people who are not even colleagues, but just who have heard about what's going on. So yeah, I guess it's really important to continue reminding the world that the war is going on, even though the rest of us are carrying on with our lives, and the war has to be tackled and something has to be done. And it's not only on the kind of on the front and in Ukraine, and it's not just about the weapons, and it's not just about the military power. It is about understanding the values and kind of sharing those democratic values and promoting them on all fronts, in all areas of lives, among all the people around the world.
And if you let me just 1 second before we go to breakout rooms, I would like to, there are a lot of voices who say now that who even blame Ukraine for not negotiating with Russia. And so a lot of people say, so the only thing to do now is just to negotiate and to bring back peace, because this is important. They do it this way, just peace is the most important thing. You should just negotiate. And here I would like to tell you a very short story from Yaroslav Yakovenko. His story is very long, and I will do it in 3 or 4 sentences. There was a very wise man living in his house with his family. He had a wife and 2 children. And a hungry bear came to his house. But the man was very wise. He said, "Oh, bear, let us negotiate. We can peacefully live together. Just be a guest in my house. Come in." The bear came in, raped his wife, killed his children, and then tore this wise man to pieces. And usually here people ask me, and I answer, that's the end of the story.
Negotiation.
That's it.
Sometimes that's a really good story there, Oksana. Sometimes things are just what they are, aren't they? And there is no happy ending to make up as a makeshift of what will be on an alternative. I think often we forget the human element in politics, and so quickly we forget all of the hurt and the loss that gets caught up in some of these decision making for the very few who sit in these seats and make these decisions for the sake of everyone else. A lot, as Helen said, a lot to take away this evening and to think about. I just wanted to, in our focus, our breakout rooms, we're going to go into smaller groups for about 15 minutes and just have a chat around some topics. And Irina raised some really good questions, and I wanted to bring it back to, and so did Sergey, on in terms of looking at that collaborative work and expanding. We're all interested in the spirit of education, the role education plays in this. And I saw two questions emerging that we can focus on. And one of them is on the importance of our evidencing and our accountability in education. How important is it for us as researchers to hold that as being as a reduction to propaganda, as a way of being critical of looking at views going forward. We are living it in the now. So the role of this evidencing, the role of us being able to be accountable researchers. And I think another one was one that I really liked that Irina raised as well, was the front line. Does higher education have a front line in this war? And I think you put the questions in the chat as well. And another one that we may think about, now you don't have to discuss all of them, but you can pick one or a different one, might be, what are the next steps in a collaboration between yourself and scholars in the UK that we can think of in terms of putting together either a call out for further collaborations? What are some next steps that might help you, help the vision of where you want to go, the message you want to share, and what can we do to help support that? So I might invite anything else to add from either Oksana, Irina, Ellen. No, we're good. Okay, so we're going to go into breakout rooms for about 15 minutes, and then we will just come back and close the session. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for sticking around, and I hope there were some productive conversations. Would anyone like to share a little bit before we close the session of what was discussed? Valentina and I had a lovely conversation about resilience, about being grounded, about character shaping in crisis. I think very, very, very good conversations. Anyone else?
Take a lead, Sergey.
I want to give the floor to Elena because we discussed actively. Do you hear myself?
Oh, we can't hear you very clearly.
Maybe.
Uh,
I want, if possible, to give the floor to Elena because we discussed actively this question, and he just summarize our discussion. In the recording was interrupted. So I want to hear a summary from you regarding our communication, if possible, Elena.
Oh, yeah, sure. Sure, it's possible as we are group one and then we have to present first. So we were discussing we mentioned that the most important skills that are important to establish collaboration and then to think of the future development of the partnership with the Barra Foundation. Critical thinking, creativity, Sergey, help me, creativity,
collaboration, communication, and you include variable leadership.
Yeah, and then we mentioned the final one is the leadership. And so we just want to give our lead to suggest some collaboration for Barra to make a common research which will be of interest. So we are just wonder how to look and then find to inspire British researchers to have common topics that are of interest for you. Even we were talking about the topics that as we usually compare, you should compare even what, for example, the vision for resilience is in Ukraine, and then vision is in Great Britain, as well as the critical thinking that exists, and what are the grounds, what are the secrets of this critical thinking that Ukrainians have, and why our young generation also think critically without any ground teaching. So whether that youth is have similar values, similar skills that Ukrainian young people have. So we would arrange the research on this basis, even the skills, the just skills, values, similar values, and even that in kind of that will be kind of a promote Ukrainian identity, because that is not just we want the world, not only UK, but the world know that Ukraine is not Russia anymore, and that is a separate and then very proud and identical country. And with heroic people, with people who can unite in very serious situations, and then we can teach you how to withstand difficulties and then be resilient to the hardships.
And
That's
if
really well
possible,
put. Thank you.
if possible, I add just few sentences. What is the background of this Ukrainian identity? We have critical thinking as a key ability. That differs us dramatically from Russian. What is the role of education? How we create this background? What is the role of English language as the main foreign language in Ukraine in creating this background? What is the role of study of English literature, of wider English studies here? And I think it could be a really interesting project and beneficial for both sides, because we need to be a partner. You need to have benefits from us. We need to have benefits from you. It's mutual cooperation. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think with that there are opportunities for us to think about it. Helen and I will take some notes and propose things to the wider SIG group. BERA also is a funder in the sense that there are special calls. I'm on the BERA committee, the College of Reviewers, and I also sit on the BERA engagement committee. So I will be happy able to get in touch with Oksana and extend any unique calls that might shape a body of work for this collaboration going forward. So thank you for sharing that. That is very insightful, and I will take that and feed it forward. Irina?
Yes, thank you, Melissa. That's also great that you mentioned that there may be some funding opportunities as well. That'd be really, really helpful, of course, for any research and related opportunities. As we mentioned, research is the source of true knowledge production, so it's very important. But another comment I wanted to make is that kind of similar events like this, events for knowledge exchange between Ukrainian colleagues and colleagues in the UK would be really, really useful for everyone as well. But I also would like to kind of point out that, well, I guess I would speak for everyone, that we do feel a bit disappointed about the turnout at this event, which is actually quite small, and they're mainly Ukrainian colleagues. Of course, there was some communication problem about advertising, about communicating via emails and so on. So for any next event, if these problems are removed, so hopefully the event could be kind of the news about the event could be delivered and reach a wider population, because there's definitely a lot of interest in this topic, just kind of knowing from the people that I work with. And yeah, any sort of discussions about the situation, the implications of war on the area of education are really, really important. So yeah, knowledge exchange events as well.
Thanks for that, Irina. I think as this was one of our first events, it was challenging for us, having not met or been able to shape the body of work that we want to take forward a bit more explicitly. So I think this being recorded is really helpful, because we'll be able to share this with the wider SIG, and there will become an appetite for wanting to become more involved. I think if we do another event, it would be really helpful for us to pick some core threads that cross over in terms of knowledge exchange that other colleagues will be interested in tackling on to things like, we can do things on looking at methods with the methodology SIG of how we might structure some work, a body of work, psychology, building a sense of resilience and reach out to some of the colleagues there, even things like sustainability, making those cross disciplinary connections will help get a nicer flavor of academics to become involved with education plus something on the theme of this collaboration. So I think that gives me and Helen another clear indication to build off the platform, and we will be able to disseminate this so that we can get a better traction. In the UK, it is always challenging to get academics to come into events because they sometimes need to be guided that they have to be there. So that's a good takeaway. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any final comments? And we are 1 minute to the end of the event. Any final comments from anyone?
Yeah,
Oksana.
I would like to thank all the people, especially Ukrainians, who found opportunity in spite of those blackouts to join the event. And I do hope that this is the first meeting, but not the last one. So this is the start, and start is always a difficult thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's been so lovely to meet everyone on behalf of Helen, myself, and Vera. We really want to thank you for taking the time to be here and for sharing so generously your stories, your insights, and your interest for future collaboration. No doubt, again, this is the beginning. So I want to wish everyone a very pleasant good evening and take care, stay safe, and we will meet again.